Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be about replacing these garage drain covers. This is kind of a trap system that was popular back in the 80s when this place was built, but the covers themselves haven't held up real well. This one's already broken, and it's going to be my attempt. I went and got some pieces of steel from Hemley Hardware down in Thompson, Ohio. Great place to deal with. But I've got 1/4 inch plate steel to replace this cast iron. I'm going to cut a circle out of a corner of this, and I'm going to try to save the rest of this over here. And I don't think I have enough, but if I can, I'll get a piece out of each corner and then have that for stock. But I made a template the right diameter, 6 7/8 to fit this. I'll take my needle gun, I'll clean this up as best I can, prime and paint it, dry it all up, and then I'm going to take a piece of this pipe. I need a 2-inch length, and I'm going to cut it off, split the seam open it up to the size I need, and do the same thing for the garage drain on the other side. And then I'll use pieces of the center here to fill in between once I get this diameter correct. I need to open it up just about 1 inch larger in diameter. So this is going to be the project. And then I think what I'm going to do as far as the layout of the holes is try to set it up and either drill those. I've got a hydraulic punch, but I don't think it's going to handle that 1/4 inch plate. But we'll get these new drains set up. And the reason I'm doing this is I plan on going ahead and putting on the epoxy paint on the floor. All right, we'll get to this. All right, I've got the water all sucked out of that, found the other broken piece to that in the catch, and I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry out some more before I hit that with my needle gun. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and take the plates upstairs and put them on the plasma table that I've got another video on. And I'll get those cut out to 6 7/8 as far as the diameter goes. But I'll double check that before I go ahead and cut those. All right, it's gonna be close, but you can see that I'm just touching. I know that I'm gonna lose some with my plasma cutter, but I think I'm gonna be fine. But I'm gonna use my layout paper here to find center, and then I'm going to go ahead and center mark here, and I'll show you the tool I have for cutting out that round circle. All right, here's the tool that I have for making circle cuts. Got this off of Amazon, I'm pretty sure. It's marked out in metric, and just made a bushing so that it was loose for my torch head. But this has a center on it right here, and this pushes down and clamps onto. You can see that right there. So I'll find center on this. And now I'll use this to make my cut with. And I'll find center down in my hole there, and then go ahead and hold that. And then this is what I'll use. Now this piece out here is quite long, so I can make bigger circles with it, and it kind of gets in the way. So I'm gonna have to position the camera so that this doesn't hit the tripod. All right, as I was manipulating this thing around and making sure I had clearances all over the place, this thing was walking in the center, and I remember that that little center hole isn't quite enough. So I went over and got one of my step drills and some oil. So I'm going to drop a hole in the middle there that I'll have to weld shut after the project's done. All right, they're measuring out right around 6 7/8, just where the plan was. And a little heavy on this side, maybe, but I'll take them down, see how they fit. All right, I don't have this cleaned out all the way yet, but let's see how this fits. How am I going to get that back out of there if I drop it in? I'll figure a way. That fits nice. See how the other one fits here. All right, they'll sit nice and flush. So I figure out where my holes are going to go here. Probably just take this, go through. I have some centering punches, and I'll just go down through there and center punch those and knock some holes in here. And then I don't think I'll weld this piece on first, just because it's going to be maybe harder to drill. Could be wrong, but we'll see what we do next. I think I'm just going to start out with one hole, drill it, and then I'll go ahead and put a bolt through it and mark the rest. All right, there's a mark. All right, I've got it set up in my smithy. I've got clamps just holding it down to get this first hole in. I've got some oil, and I've got the depth set so I don't drill into my table. So I'm going to end up marking or going all the way through this one, ending up bolting on this grate to that, finish marking the holes, and then bring it back up here and drilling the rest of the holes and probably marking these at the same time, the bottom plate at the same time. Looks like I'm going to have to sharpen that bit or run a pilot. All right, got the hole drilled in the plate, found a bolt for it. I'm gonna connect the two together, mark the rest of the holes. The two plates are bolted together. I used one outer hole and one inner hole. I'm gonna put some wood underneath each side of this, clamp it down similar to what I had it the last time. Get as many holes as I can, and then rotate it a little bit, clamp it again. And but all the holes are marked and ready to drill. All right, deburr around those holes a little bit, and these will be ready to have that section of the trap put on it. And that took me about another half hour of drilling to get the holes to 1/2 inch. And for today, I'm going to clean up, call it a day. All right, this is going to be a video within a video. I got to fix the tool before I can use it. During another project, I busted off the casting that goes to the crank, or the clamp section here. That's supposed to mount to there. But this busted off, and what I'm going to, this is the upper section. Let me see if I can get it up here so you can see it. That busted off, and it's because the bolt only went down into it about that far. There's another 1/2 inch of thread down here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean these pieces off, this piece off, get a longer bolt, but I'm also going to try to braze or TIG weld this cast iron piece back together. And with that longer bolt, I think it'll, hold up well enough to make this thing functional again. See how it goes. All right, I'm going to try TIGging it first. I've never TIGged cast iron. I just know that I have a tube over here. When I bought the welder, the guy had some cast iron looking square stock, and I'm going to try to melt it in there. I'm going to have to get on ChatGPT, find out what kind of settings are on the, I'm guessing it's going to be DC, but I'm going to try to get that filled in and leveled off, and see how this goes. Back this side over here. The problem with cast iron is that when it cools too quickly, it wants to crack. I have to do this side, and then I have to flip it over. So I've got a pair of needle nose pliers here that I'm going to flip it, retighten it, and I'm going to try to clean it up with the grinders that I have here while it's still hot, and I'm going to attempt to weld the other side. But I also have sand here because this helps the cast iron from cooling down too quickly. I'll take it out, I'll bury it in the sand here so that it retains the heat within the cast iron, and hopefully it won't crack when I still have to weld it onto the bottom section, but I got to tear the saw apart. And I'm trying this first because I don't want to tear the saw apart until I can figure out whether I can actually get this thing welded together. But I'll show you that cast iron rod here in a second. All right, this is that cast rod that I have. It looks like it's about 1/8 of an inch wide. And I've taken a wire brush to it, cleaned it off so that there were, hopefully, most of the impurities are gone. But let's go at this and see how it comes out. Gotten this piece off of the saw while that was sitting in there actually cooling down. Let's see how hot it is. I can touch it. It's still definitely warm. That bolt is jammed in there now because of the distortion that I've put on it, I'm sure. I tried not to get the weld down in there, but that one's going to have to get ground off a little bit. So as long as that bolt's going to hold that kind of secure, I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the grinder and see if I can make it so that it'll sit onto this piece correctly. While that bolt is stuck in there, hopefully I'm not going to break it getting it out. But I'm going to kind of flatten out these sides since I'm going to have hopefully something that I can hold on to here. Definitely got some porosity in there. Definitely warmed it up. Had to go in and get a longer bolt, and it says that it's a 10 by 1.50 thread pitch and 35 millimeters long. So I also brought up a tap with me. I'm going to clear out those threads and go ahead and use this bolt to attach this piece to this piece and see if I can't hold it down secure enough so that the threads match up and that the surfaces are fairly close to one another. But let's see how this goes. All right, I'll give that about 15 or 20 minutes to cool down slowly, start sanding on it, get it back to the levels that it's supposed to be, and run a tap down, well, get that bolt out of there, and then run a tap down through it, and get that thing back on the saw, see if it's going to work. It's been roughly 20 minutes since I put that in there. Let's see if I can touch it yet. It is definitely hot, but I can touch it. Some of the welds look okay, some are rather rough, but that's what we're going to go with for now. And whoo, definitely on the hot side. All right, let's see first off whether we can get that bolt out of there. Oh, that's rather nice. I'm gonna wait for it to cool down a little bit more before I run that tap through it. Yeah, it is a little vise. I picked this up at a government auction a long time ago. There were two of them. I sold one of them, but kept one for myself just so I could move it around from tabletop to tabletop. And it's worked out very handy, and it did come with a set of brass jaw protectors, or protectors for, you know, the items that you're holding. And I'm going to go ahead and I think probably lay this down like so and hit it with the air file. And I did bring two different grits of paper. That one's fairly well wore out, but this is 120 grit that I'm going to put on it at first, and let's go to town on this thing. Well, let's take this piece over, see if it's going to fit in the guide, and get this bandsaw back together. Now, let's see if it's going to slide in here. Nope, it's still a little bit too wide. Not much. It fits in there snugly, but I want it to run back and forth easily. So I'll go over and do a little more grinding on this. And I took some of this assembly goo from the C4 transmission rebuild and put it on the screw, put it in the end piece here, and so it'll have a little bit of lubrication on it of some type. All right, took that back over to the grinder and actually used my verniers and saw that I was kind of askew on one side. But that's fitting nicely now. I'll throw a little bit of this assembly goo on here just in order for this thing to have a little bit of lubrication on it. Get this thing back together so we can get to work with it. I got 3 equal pieces cut for that trap, and I got the first one cut Didn't know how well it was going to work, but I just used my battery operated Craftsman Sawzall, went right down the middle of the weld seam on the pipe, and I'm just going to repeat this process on the other two. That's going to be it for today. I got my 3 pieces of pipe for my traps for my garage floors ready to expand. I'm going to use the nose of this homemade anvil that I found at a garage. Actually, my mother-in-law found this for me at a garage sale. But I got the saw fixed today, so that's another thing off my list. And we'll start on this project again hopefully tomorrow. All right, I went in last night and thought about another way that it might assist me on enlarging that pipe. I have this piece of hardwood, and before I nip the edges off of it, because I hate hitting that sharp edge when I'm going to use the lathe on the shopsmith, I went ahead and went across the corners, made my center on this piece on both ends, nipped this off so it wouldn't be so harsh when I was cutting into that on the lathe. But I'm going to turn this to that 3 1/4 inch inside diameter that I need, and I'm going to make it about 2 inches long, about the whole diameter or inner idea of that pipe. And then I'm going to make a little bit of a cone on the end here. I don't know, the less of a taper, the less abrupt it's going to be for beating that piece onto here. But between the anvil that I have and this piece, I should be able to shape that very easily. Actually don't know if it's going to work or not, but it's an idea. I'm going to use the anvil to start flattening out sections of this to spread it out, and I'll have to do it probably from both directions, but I'll use this as a guide for me to see that I'm not stretching an area out, too far, but if I can get it to fit on this bottom end, then I'll have a open space over here or wherever this crack or this cut lies, and then I'll be able to measure, fit the piece in, or cut a piece and fit it in, and weld it in to get the right dimension for myself. All right, let's see how this goes. This will give you an idea how much that has to be stretched. I got a little flat spot there that didn't come out, but it's about, I would say, from the ID to the outer, you're looking at somewhere 1/4, 5/16 of an inch that's going to have to spread, and I think it's going to be a pretty good sized gap by the time we get done. This is pretty much the extent of what I'm going to use to get these fitted to the right ID for that trap. I'm going to use the hammer on the nose of this. I'm going to put it in time lapse. I'm going to get it to fit the bottom. Once I get it to fit the bottom, I'll measure and cut a section out of this one of these pieces, but I'll have to get the dimension right also. So before I actually cut it out of there, I'll get it almost to the same diameter as the one that's fitting. But some earplugs, gloves, the anvil, and the hammer. Let's get this thing going. Upstairs, back by the welder, I've got a zip tie around there just so I can tack this here and here, and hopefully on the other end I can slide these away without burning it. I would usually use a hose clamp, but they're downstairs and I'm not going to make another trip. So I'm going to tack this in place, and I ended up cutting 2.5 inches out of the one piece. I cut on both sides of the split, so I've got the other one over here. I'm going to tack this in, tack that one in, and then burn them together, and then go ahead and weld them onto the covers themselves. While those cool down, I'll use these center holes here, take an old compass that I have and get it laid out here so I can keep these centered, tack these in place, and then burn them in. Now they're tacked into place, I'm going to take them downstairs and make sure that they do fit over the center section to complete that trap. Took them downstairs, made sure they fit, brought them back up, and I chamfered the upper edges with an 11/16 drill bit just so there weren't those sharp edges on there. Get the water to flow down into them. And soften the edges a little bit so it held the paint a little better, hopefully. going to start downstairs, clean out the well part, hit them with the needle gun, and get that primered, and then it'll be ready for when I go to put the epoxy floor coating on to the garage. So hopefully these will last another 50 years. All right, it's the next day. Both the covers have dried. I'm going to attempt to clean this up. I'm going to use the needle scaling gun, air-powered gun on that. I'm going to be very, very careful with that. I'm only going to try to use it where I think this is backed up with concrete. So across the top on this outer edge, I'm not going to hit on this. At least if I do, it's going to be very lightly. But then after I get all that scale off of there, I'm going to grab my little Harbor Freight shop vac, battery operated, and 110, but I'm going to suck that out, and then I'm going to use the wire wheels and the grinders and the drill with some different attachments on it. Try to get that cleaned up to the point where I can get some primer on this, and then hopefully get the other one done yet today also. There's a closer look at it. Most of the scale is off. There was quite a bit back in this corner, but I'm going to hit it with a grinder now. The other thing is with that needle scaler, I didn't want to get out here on that concrete and start flaking that, but it's coming along. There's a closer look at it. It's not perfect, but I'm going to spray a little brake clean around the whole thing and along the edges so I can get a little bit of stick to the tape and throw some primer on it. All right, I got to run off and do something else, but I got to take care of a few of these tools so that I can park in here yet tonight. So until I get back. Okay, it's the next day, and after a quick run to Emergicare last night, got home at 7 o'clock, so this got postponed, and we had some high winds, so I've got another project that I'm going to have to do. But I'm going to get to this second drain, hit it with a needle scaler, well, vacuum it out. Same process as the last one, and hopefully this one turns out as well as that one. Went upstairs, grabbed a flashlight just to give you a closer look at how much junk was stuck to the sides. grab this light. And that was after I swept it out, but that scaling was on everything in there. And as you can see, they used maybe a piece of 1 inch or 1.5 inch black pipe down there that just goes into a well. So I'll sweep all that out along with all the rest of the stuff that's all around the drain. All right, after round 2 with that needle gun, needle scaler, there's still a lot of material that's getting busted loose, but you start to see the shine down in there. And it's not going to get much better than that. There's a lot of pitting around the sides, but I'm going to hit that with the vacuum and the wire wheel and the vacuum one more time and see if I can't get this thing ready to paint. Well, now comes the worst part of any project. It's cleaning up all your tools, putting the mess away and sweeping up. But another project almost done. I'll let that dry, put another coat on it, but I want to thank you for tuning into the channel and taking your time to watch this. I appreciate it. If you would like and subscribe, I would appreciate it. It does help the channel. And we'll get on to some other projects. I've already got some videoed. I just haven't had the time to edit them yet because they're quite long. But I hope you enjoy the content and hope you have a great day.